This murder of our ambassador and his staff in Libya is a direct result not of the anti-Islamic film produced in the United States. It is a direct result of the Valkyries around Obama who are bloodthirsty and apparently on the warpath against the wrong forces. I want you to listen again to our Secretary of State after Gaddafi was murdered in cold blood.
We came, we saw, he died.
How do you feel about women laughing over the murder of a man? These are women who profess a love for human rights and justice for people on death row for 30 years. I'll tell you who has it exactly right. It's the Russians. The Russians are so smart compared to the idiots in the American media. I don't know what country they're living in this country. I want to read you something out of Moscow that just came out of the New York Times, written by Ellen Barry, because it's very telling. Upon learning of the violent death of the United States ambassador to Libya on Wednesday, many Russians responded with variations on, "I told you so." You see, Russia has long argued that the West should not support popular uprisings against dictatorships in the Middle East, lest Islamic fundamentalism take hold. By the way, I'm going to pause here. That's exactly my position in trickle-down tyranny and on this radio show. Are these eggheads in the White House that naive to think that Islamists are going to love them? Are you people that nuts? So in other words, we put them in power and they thanked us by killing our ambassador. Is that it? So let me continue with the article. Vladimir Putin, then serving as prime minister, was especially enraged last fall after an angry crowd killed his ally, Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi, an event he later condemned as a repulsive, disgusting scene. He's absolutely right. They did not bring him to trial, by the way. They butchered him in cold blood, and Hillary laughed about it. I'll go back to the article. Since then, Russia has blocked Western initiatives to force Syria's president, Bashar al-Assad, from power, despite a bloody crackdown on the opposition. Russians' responses to the storming of the American consulate in Benghazi underlined the deep policy divide. A primetime news report pointedly juxtaposed images of Ambassador J. Christopher Stevens' death with Colonel Gaddafi's, pointing at their similarities. This is in Russia. Then cut the footage of Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton reacting to the Libyan leader's death with a cursory, "Wow." Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Magalov said that passions had been stoked by the uprisings and that they splash out in the form of terrorist acts, of massacres of non-believers, or an attack on embassies and consulates, close quote. See, the Russians have it exactly right. Our dummies from the academic left have no idea what their idiocy has wrought. But the Russians, who have been there and done that, understand what is going on in the world. To an extent, the American diplomacy corps should be embarrassed and learn from them. I'll go back to the article. The frequency of these outbursts, unfortunately, has been growing since the, quote, Arab Spring. Brought to power political groups of Islamic orientation, either open or indirect, Mr. Margalov said in comments to the Interfax news agency. Shall I go on? The first comments in Russia on Twitter were bitingly sarcastic. Quote, "The democratized residents of Libya thank the staff of the American embassy for its support," one read. Another read this, quote, "This is what you call exporting democracy, it seems. America gives Libya a revolution, and Libyans in return kill the ambassador," close quote. Something you'd expect from intelligent people, which apparently we're not getting here in the United States, only in Russia. Alexei K. Pushkov, the head of Russia's Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Committee, wrote this via Twitter, quote, "Under Gaddafi, they didn't kill diplomats. Obama and Clinton are in shock. What did they expect? Democracy? Even bigger surprises await them in Syria." I'll close off right here on that because all of these comments are in direct sync with what I try to warn you in my best-selling book, Trickle-Down Tyranny. And I keep hammering my Bible. I hammer trickle-down tyranny because I wrote it not to get rich. I wrote it to try and save this kind of event from occurring.
Savage.